On my flight to Boston last week, I had the opportunity to watch a few episodes of one of my favorite TV shows, that's The West Wing, and came across a line in there from Leo McGarry, who serves as the president's chief of staff in this TV show. And he says this line, and I think it was just so timely. He says, "There's two things in the world you never want to let people see how you make them: laws and sausages." And right now, we're on the verge of a government shutdown. The odds are about 60% the government will shut down if the Democrats and Republicans can't come to some sort of an agreement before tomorrow, Tuesday, at midnight. They are meeting later on this afternoon. We'll see what happens there, but I'd say most are expecting us to actually shut down here in a couple of days, which is certainly unfortunate, but it's nothing new. In fact, we've seen 14 government shutdowns since 1980. So this is just something that unfortunately we've had to deal with over and over again. What does this mean for the market? I think a lot of people would be surprised to see that the market, at least in these more recent government shutdowns, it actually does not sell off. You would think the market doesn't like uncertainty. We certainly don't need this right now with everything else that's going on. But the market has actually held up relatively well in recent government shutdowns. In fact, the longest in history was the most recent government shutdown, which began in December of 2018. It bled into January of 2019. It lasted a full 34 days, and we saw the market actually rally quite a bit throughout that time. So from a market standpoint, yeah, it's not ideal, but we also are going to look through it. I think there's a number of questions out there for those who are thinking about what the government shutdown means for the economy, for the markets, for them. The one thing I will highlight is that entitlement payments, things like Social Security, Medicare, those continue to be paid. Those are mandatory spending provisions. And so whether the government shuts down or not, don't worry, those will still get paid. I think it's really government workers that really suffer the most here. We're going to see about 40% of government workers, so about 900,000 that could be furloughed during this time. And then those who aren't furloughed might not get their paychecks in time. What we've seen historically is that they do eventually get paid. And so maybe there's a little bit of a dip in spending, a dip in economic growth here over the short term to the extent that this government shutdown lasts. But eventually, as people get paid, they go back and get back to spending and doing what they do best. So we'll look through that. Certainly, we hope that if there is a government shutdown, it will be short-lived. But of course, nobody knows. For now, what we are looking at is the fact that this is a really busy week for economic data. We always look forward to the first week of any new month. And we know that right now, one of the big questions on our minds and the minds of those at the Federal Reserve is what's going on with the job market. We are seeing some notable weakness, certainly nothing to suggest that a recession is coming, but we're seeing a weakness and softening in the labor markets. And this is a really big week. If the government is shut down, then we actually won't receive public data, public economic data. And this week, what's in store is a weekly series that we get every Thursday from the Department of Labor, and that's the jobless claims. So those filing for first-time unemployment benefits and those filing for continuing ongoing benefits. So we wouldn't get that on Thursday. Probably more importantly is the fact that we would not get the jobs report that is due out on Friday. That comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Right now, the big question is what's going on with the jobs market. We've seen a notable drop here in monthly hiring. And in fact, estimates vary coming into this jobs report, which is going to be for the month of September. We're seeing estimates from basically flat to 120,000 jobs being added in the month of September. So really, it's nobody really knows, and it certainly won't help matters if we don't get this report on Friday as scheduled. It might take some time and be delayed by a week or two if we do see the government shut down, even for a little bit. So it just makes things a little bit harder for all of us that are looking for signs of what's going on with the economy. Now, fortunately, we will still get other data. Private data will still come out as scheduled. So we'll get the JOLTS data this week. That's the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. It is not provided by the government, but it's also not not as timely. So it's actually looking a couple months back. So it doesn't give us the full picture. So that's really what it means for us, but we'll get through it.